Welcome to Urbane Legends, the podcast about urban legends and how to act in a courteous and refined manner, but much less about that. Here's your hosts, Neil and Chris.
Hello and welcome to Urbane Legends, the podcast about etiquette, almost fully etiquette, and with, if we've got time, a little bit about an urban legend. I am your host. I'm known around Whitechapel Fish Market as the cheeky cockle seller. My name's Chris Flynn, it is. And with me is a man who is
owner of all of Kensington.
You wish. No, he's known for starring in several films in the 80s and 90s. He starred in Death Wish 3, Appointment with Death, and Dirty Weekend. It is
Neil Herbert.
Hi, Neil. Thanks for finding time in your busy schedule for coming here. Can't help but notice they're all Michael Winner films there, and I've got an article here from 1989, a Heat magazine, saying that you were Winner's new golden boy. So how did all that come about?
Well, you know, he used to do all the restaurant reviews, and so I met him in McDonald's because that was actually his favourite restaurant. You wouldn't have guessed that from
No, not at all.
Yeah, he's a really big fan of the double bacon cheeseburger.
Yeah, who isn't?
Better than anywhere else, apparently. So yeah, we bonded over that. And
did you have an interview with him?
No. I think we just sort of realised very quickly that we were sort of had a lot in common. And
all right, do you want? Shall we recreate that scene now? You can be Neil Herbert. I'll be Michael Winner.
I read about where this is going, but
I'm Michael Winner. You boy over there, come to my table.
All right.
What's your name then?
I'm Neil Herbert.
Neil Herbert, I like your look. You've got what we in the business call pizzazz. I want to put you in the movie films. What do you think about that?
I don't know. What's it, Pat?
Don't you worry about that. I'll be your agent too. Now, go and speak to my assistant over there and she'll give you a lovely dress. We're going out for dinner tonight and not to McDonald's. How does that sound to you?
Right, fancy. Well up for this.
Good. I'll create a fuss and eat foie gras. You can sit there and look gorgeous, and you're going to be a huge star in Hollywood.
So you're just going to assure me I'm not going to star in a load of mediocre action films that you've just barely got funding for?
I promise nothing at this point. Nonetheless, I know the editor at Heat magazine, and he'll put you on the front cover. You'll be getting endorsement offers up the wazoo like a rhinestone cowboy.
So that's what I was promised. As you'll see from my IMDb, as you'll see from my IMDb page, it was, you know, a lot of thug number 3. If you notice, I was actually in Death Wish 3 as well, Chris. I'm uncredited. I'm the guy who was humping the car.
Oh right, well, I did actually mention Death Wish 3.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I got a scene as well where I'm sort of screaming on in the background as the gang leader who's.
Oh, nice, like Zed from Police Academy.
You know that scene where one of their underlings challenges them, and he stabs his own man to just prove how evilly and gang-like he is.
I'm embarrassed to say, Neil, I haven't seen Death Wish 3.
You haven't seen Death Wish 3?
Despite the fact that you're in it, no. Maybe because of that. But then my jealousy would have risen too high.
It's a wonderful movie. There's a whole bit about how he buys a gun and then goes to the post office to pick it up, and everyone's just looking at this thing admirably. And then a whole bit at the end as well where he has like basically a side.
What, mail order gun?
Yeah.
What, Littlewood's catalogue? Like,
literally, there's about a 5-minute scene where he's like, I'm going to go and meet my friend Magnum or something, and then off to the post office. Hi, they got a package for you, Mr. Bronson.
I'm going to go and meet my two friends, Smith and Weston.
Yeah, he opens it up and goes, whoa, look at this.
Yeah, we'll have a look at that.
Yeah, it's quite pornographic about guns, the old Death Wish movies.
Well, I mean, a lot of films are, aren't they?
Yeah, I get the feeling Michael Winner had actually, you know, actually, I'm not going to say that, but he did
have sex with a gun.
No, possibly. No, he did write an article once about. I think he made some film with. I think it might have been Chris Rea. It was very similar to Death Wish, but it's basically somebody who's got a terminal illness, and then just decides to just. He makes up a list of all the people he wants to kill, basically, and then goes out.
With Chris Rea does.
I'm pretty sure it's Chris Rea. I've either misremembered that completely, or it's just weird enough to be true.
He did the film Bullseye, which had which I've heard of recently.
That was Roger Moore.
Roger Moore and Michael Caine.
I think that was a Michael Winner joint as well.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's
it's
meant
a really
to be
late Winner one.
mental.
It would have been probably 90s.
It was 90.
No, late
1990. Bullseye was. I'm looking.
It wasn't Bullseye. I don't think. I can't remember what it was called.
Oh, what? Oh, his late one. What was his
Bullseye
last
was
films?
more like a caper. It was like a mercenaries. I've not seen it, but I've heard of it.
It's meant to be quite just mad because it's those two clearly who just because they were mates in real life going, it's a nice little holiday for us.
Yeah, it's something like the equivalent of those Adam Sandler films.
Parting Shots?
It could have, Parting Shots sounds about right. Read the description.
Yeah.
It's something about a guy with terminal illness who decides... Anyway, it just all struck me as a bit of a psychotic premise. It's like, if you're about to die, the last thing you decide you want to do is who you want to kill, and just Michael Winner in some newspaper column saying how he'd... that.
Ben Kingsley, Chris Rea, John Cleese, Oliver Reed, Bob Hoskins, Diana Rigg, Felicity Kendall. I mean, it's got quite a big cast. 21% on Rotten Tomatoes. What do they know? Harry Steinfeld, a failed photographer, is diagnosed with cancer and told that he only has 3 months to live. He decides to kill everyone who's ever crossed him and even hires one to kill him. But the doctor informs him that the cancer reports are inaccurate, and Harry finds himself being chased by the police and a hitman. Fantastic. I mean, he sounds like a shit, so you're meant to be rooting for him.
Yeah, you're meant to be rooting for him. The idea was, we'd all do that if we got a terminal diagnosis. That was kind of the tone of the G wrong. I'm sure it was tongue-in-cheek, but I wonder, Mr. Winner, whether or not there's... Well, having said that...
Is that what you do, Neil?
No, I wouldn't. I probably want to try and spend time with family and friends and sort of create some moments.
Yeah, maybe do some good. Try and get my head straight spiritually.
Yeah, go out shooting. Good Lord, especially in this of all weeks. Good Lord, but it's it's kind of got a horrible premise, and it was sort of the whole thing was done up as a sort of why wouldn't you sort of thing? It's just that'd be the last thing I think I've ever had. Anyway, so not sure he was. Not sure he was the nicest of human beings, Mr. Wynn.
No, I don't believe he was.
So he did make Hannibal Barker, I believe it was called. It's a lovely film where Oliver Reed takes a load of elephants over. He's like fighting the Nazis with elephants, basically.
All right.
He gets them out of the lake. I cannot remember where it goes.
Are elephants not as effective against mechanised warfare as they were against the spears of the Romans?
It's literally just, he's taken the whole Hannibal from Carthage thing and applied it to the Second World War, but I cannot remember now how it finishes or what it's about. But I've seen this, but I couldn't tell you.
Within 10 minutes, the elephant's got shells.
No, I mean, obviously he succeeded. I can't think of the applicability of elephants to modern warfare or how that was. I imagine they were carrying some bombs or something. I don't know. I've seen it. I literally can't remember anything about it.
He's not the kind of person I'd want being in charge of my resistance.
I reckon it was just he got an offer from a zoo to have some elephants for the week, and he thought, right, we can do a film there.
I promised this girl that she could see some zoos, see some elephants from the zoo. So I'm going to hire them through my production company.
Or something like that, possibly.
and make a film. Yeah. He's a prick.
He's behind interesting filmography.
I assume that there's been some Me Too stuff about him. I don't know, but I would assume so. He seems the type.
I don't know that it ever... he would be sort of patronising and, so on and so forth. But no, I don't... Yeah, I don't know, actually.
Let's have a look. Posthumous controversies.
Oh, okay.
So, no, I mean... Sleazy boat, basically, nowhere near the Weinsteins of this world. Not not the worst that we've heard of, but still not great.
Basically just somebody who's, a lot of the films glamorise violence, but then again, I'm a big fan of 80s movies, so what a hypocrite I am, but there you go.
Yeah, and violence and nudity are pretty glamorous, so...
Hey, just making a buck.
Give them what they want. So, Neil, I've got a couple of short bits of etiquette for you. This one, I believe, was actually taken on as policy in the early days of the pandemic by the Johnson government. So, when you cough or sneeze, make sure you do it into your elbow. When you do that, it avoids spreading germs. So that's a good one, isn't it? Coughing into your elbow. Don't know how scientific it is.
Where are you getting your etiquette advice? Because I would have thought a tissue or a handkerchief would have been the... I'm assuming this is if you're caught short. Would you also urinate into your elbow to prevent it from spattering on them? Well, how much applicability does the elbow have? I don't know how much bodily fluid it can hold, but...
So this is from Chron, CHRON.com, basic social etiquette rules.
Yeah, I wouldn't really want an elbow full of snot, to be honest with you, but I mean, I'll look to move away from, so I don't do it at somebody. And obviously I'm wearing a mask if I'm out these days, but...
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that I necessarily agree with all of this.
Well, I mean, you brought it up.
Well... I'm starting to wonder about
I'm going to challenge you on that one. You know me, Chris. I'm happy to learn. Grape scissors. I'm using all the time now. He wouldn't touch me clawing at a bunch of grapes with that pair of grape scissors. But I'm always going to push back if I don't feel it's correct.
Yeah, well, I think you're right there, Neil. You're right. We're here to hopefully learn some etiquette, but where it's impractical, we're not afraid to criticise. So here's one. So I agree with this one. I didn't realise it was etiquette, and no one actually does it apart from a few brave souls who still hope that as a race of humans we can all rub together and not kill each other. Park your shopping cart on the side of the aisle, not in the centre. The rest of us are shopping too. I agree with that. The amount of people who just leave their trolleys in the middle, causing pile-ups, that kind of thing.
Rarely use a shopping cart. I mean, the one thing you've got to be careful of is you don't put it so close that you're sort of blocking the shelves as well. But yeah.
Well, I disagree. I go very close to it, but then that's so, like, if I know what I'm getting and then I move on swiftly.
Well, okay, as long as you're not parking it there, then I think that's fine. That's the thing you've got to be...
Yeah, you see, I do once a month or something, I do a big shop at one of the cheap supermarkets like Aldi, get all my basics in and stuff for the freezer. It just makes good financial sense, Neil.
I tend to do the sort of more small shops, but that's because where I live, there's not really.
I get someone to give me a lift home. I couldn't do it otherwise unless I can Uber or something.
Yeah, I don't drive, so I'm kind of like.
Yeah, I don't live anywhere near a proper supermarket. I mean, I've just got loads of like local and express stuff around where I live, and I'm up hills, so I couldn't really do it.
Although, if it's a big shop, I wouldn't do it once a month, but
do it online.
Yeah, having it delivered. I mean, something I generally didn't do because you want to go out and sort of buy things that you fancy, but I've done it before for kind of like.
But there's basics and stuff that you always need, and tins and...
Yeah, no, exactly. Stuff that's going to keep a long time. Or if, rare occasion of having people around for a sort of party or something like that. And sort of like, it's good if you're getting in, a bunch of bottles of wine and things like that. But or heavy stuff, ice.
When are you having parties?
Not for years now, but not since pandemic came across. But
You've not been inviting me to these parties?
You've been around probably about? The last... I've probably had about 4 since I've been in this place, but you've been around.
Was one of them us helping you move in?
Yeah, probably, yeah. That doesn't happen often.
Party time! I'll help you build the sofa. Right, so...
I say party, I mean, have a few friends around for dinner, basically, is what I mean. Yeah.
So this week, I am going to be reading out, and we're going to be picking over a urban myth/legend from the mythical cloud kingdom of Chile in South America. We're trying to have a look at some stuff from all over the world because often they're quite interesting and we don't want it to just be Britain and American based. I mean, to be honest, you could just do American urban legends forever because they seem to be the hotbed of it. But so this is El Basilico or Co. That'd be Co, wouldn't it? Basilico?
Yeah, I'm not sure actually.
Yeah, okay, well, I'm going to go with El Basilico Chlote. Let's have a start on this. Hailing from the Chilo archipelago in southern Chile, El Basilico Chlote is a reptilian beast from Chlote mythology that is sure to strike fear into the hearts of any man, or hunger, depending on how much you like fried chicken. I'm reading this from an article from In the Dark Air, and I believe it was done by Madam Addison Plainter.
Oh, okay.
Or Plaintier. So jokes like that aren't coming from me. I'd just like to make that clear. After all, at first glance, El Basilico Chlote hardly looks intimidating. In fact, most artistic descriptions or depictions, God, my words are bad today, of the beast imply that even it's a bit confused as to precisely what it was. When you look like the awkward result of a chicken mix and match book, it must be hard to take yourself seriously. This may explain why our repulsive reptile operates in the shadows and has adopted an insidious way of reaching its victims. So at the moment, it's saying it looks like a mix and match chicken, but it's a reptile.
Well, this sounds very much to me like, you'd have, I think it's just quite a medieval hype for this kind of stuff in Europe, where you'd have like a griffin, which was, I don't know, what is that? It's the head of a bird, eagle head,
body of a lion.
Body of a lion, that's it. And then wings, I think.
Like an eagle.
Yeah. Or kind of like, I'm struggling to remember any of them now. But yeah, you kind of like, you would have just like really weird matchups or, like.
Well, they thought that in the very far
dragon's body.
When you get those medieval maps where it's all quite normal and fine, kind of in the centre of the maps. But then as they get kind of out towards the end of the known world, then there's just like there be dragons sort of shit, where you've got in the far north kind of Scandinavia, well, obviously it'd be difficult to get to because it's treacherous. They thought there was a race of dog-headed men. And then like you had sort of down in, I don't know where it'd be, like south of Ethiopia, you had like people who had no heads but like eyes and facial features on their chests, or you had people who like had two arms and just one big foot.
Yes, I've seen a lot of pictures of that.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. Right, so according to the legend, it can only be hatched from an egg that has been laid and incubated by an old hen or a red rooster. Once the egg has hatched, the creature will slither its way under a house of an unsuspecting prey, whereupon it will burrow deep into the ground and establish an underground lair. Like a supervillain. During the day, it hides in its snugly subterranean den and waits for nightfall, like a grown man living in his mother's basement. Ugh. It's unnecessary. Once it's dark, however, and the household has fallen into a slumbering silence, El Basilico Chlote will emerge to enact its deadly deeds. In a reversal of its rooster heritage, it emits a soothing song that lulls the people of the household to sleep. That's nice. Or deepens the slumber of those who've already drifted off into the land of dreams. It is only then that it slides atop of the chest of its victim, inhales their breath.
There's going to be something terrifying here, I assume, like steal your soul or death.
It inhales their breath, sucks the phlegm from their mouth, and ingests their sputum. I mean, that's I mean, that makes it sound real because, like the most successful animals in nature find a niche.
Yeah, it's a bit like that bird who picks food off of a crocodile's teeth. Oh, that sounds like a tastier meal than sucking the saliva out of someone's mouth.
Well,
I suppose if you're a snake with a rooster's head,
chicken heads.
You've not got many options. But you think you'd be able to peck something a bit tastier out of the earth than that. Well, who knows? Maybe some sort of. Not keen on its meal choices. I'll be honest with you.
So after 1 week of this nightly draining, the victim of El Basilico Chlote will start to notice a dryness in their mouth from waking up, and the skin will become extremely pale. I mean, it does just sound like they're on the pot weeds.
Yeah, I think, just all skagging or something. Method. I think we should also, I'm just thinking we should call it LB from now on in.
LB?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm going to be going with anyway, so. Yeah.
EBC?
Yeah.
I'm going with EBC.
Fair enough.
Okay.
I'm going with LB.
Just to confuse everyone. I think me especially. So over time, an unexplainable fatigue will overwhelm them, their appetite will vanish, and they will rapidly start to lose muscle mass until they're a meagre shell of them form themselves. It's like, it sounds like lockdown, except for the appetite vanishing.
Yeah, I was going to say it's perfectly the opposite there for me.
Well, I mean, I withered my muscle quite a lot.
Yeah,
I've only just kind of got back to my pre-lockdown walking abilities. So,
going out for a decent walk, that was a surprise. Good Lord.
In the final stages, the victim will be plagued with a persistent cough and her breathing will become laboured. This is a point at which EBC is extracting their final breaths, and it could only be a matter of days before the poor unfortunate will die from dehydration. So,
are we sure that COVID's COVID and isn't LB doing a world tour?
Could be, couldn't it?
Just, off to China for a bit.
So I know that sort of that Chile's got very mountainous, isn't it? And very arid. So I mean,
well, you're on the coast, aren't you, Chile? Is that right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's sort of mountainous.
I would imagine so. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking. I always think I've been to Colombia, and I know. I always think of sort of Peru with that. Obviously that's very mountainous. I'm guessing it's similar because it borders Chile and Peru, doesn't it? I think they're on the border.
Yeah, Peru's north of
Peru's north of Chile, and then Colombia's north of that.
Yeah. But like in Peru, you've got like the Nazca Plains, haven't you? And that's like the driest place on earth.
Okay.
So kind of when you're right up in the Andes, it's really like, it's basically a desert because there's no rainfall because you're above the clouds. But I mean, these people is it magic dehydration? Because you'd think you'd wake up with a dry mouth and go, probably have some water.
Well, no, exactly. Yeah,
keep yourself hydrated.
No, I mean because everyone would have the same response then, wouldn't they? So I don't think it would be.
What do you mean?
Well, no. What I mean is if it was about sort of high altitude or something like that, and I don't know if all of Chile is kind of a high altitude, but I honestly.
No, I don't think it's that. What I'm saying is there a lack of water around there? So these people are dying from dehydration because if not, the fact that he's like nicking your saliva and you wake up like feeling dry. Like, would you not just have like, you know, when you feel thirsty, you just drink water?
I mean, that's true, but I think, are we assuming it's dehydration? Because I think just...
Well, they've said he dies from dehydration. The person dies from dehydration. So I think that's where I'm skeptical. That's the only
I agree, you drink some water, but I think... but is there some sort of evil going on after he drinks saliva?
Is it a spiritual dehydration?
Yeah, exactly. It might be. Which
I would say, Neil, that as a country we have here, we are suffering from. We might have plenty of rain, but we're suffering from a spiritual dehydration.
Mobile phones have advanced so much in the last 10 years, Chris, but have we left God behind in the process? That's what I'll put to you. Have we left good values, morality, and religion behind in the process? I would say that we have.
And I would say, if you want to know more about this, Neil has
advances in prayer technology have barely advanced in the last 600 years.
Yeah, which is why you're releasing your app, isn't it?
By sending me money, I can increase the power of your prayer 600%.
Using 5G technology. It sends it via 5G. It sends it directly.
What is 73% more likely to hear your prayers?
It bounces your prayer directly off the steeple of Canterbury Cathedral.
I'm not going to get into the science, Chris. There's a lot of ley lines involved. It's Glastonbury Tor, Stonehenge, but it's
using the power of 5G, ley lines and vortexes.
Well, that's nature in the ancient world's 5G, and obviously the power of.
And I believe that one of these prayer messages costs no more than your standard average.
It costs barely more than 3 nights stay at a 5-star hotel. So who can, and this is for your immortal souls. So who can? It's cheaper.
Yeah, and
think of it like that. It's cheap, isn't it? Your future. It's your own future. It's fun.
And you're looking at eternity in basically heaven, which is at least a 4-star TripAdvisor
hotel.
Can't
pay your way in there, other than the app.
It's not 7-star. No, God's not made of money. It's not. It's not that good, but there's it's half board basically. So seriously though, people do take some of it with you, because otherwise you're going to go hungry. So once they are dead, EBC will move on to another member of the household and repeat the process until all the inhabitants have tragically perished. We're not 100% sure what happens after this point, but we like to imagine that each EBC goes to get their real estate license so they can sell the house on to the next family.
As we call them, UK estate agents.
So it is, yeah. Although they seem to be a lot more private ones in America, don't they?
Yeah, you can get your real estate license. Yeah, you can get a license and then just get your license. Small businesses in this country. With total Brexit, it'll all be online in a few years, won't it? Nobody will bother anymore.
Yeah, won't even go to the houses. I mean, I'm not even going to bother buying a house. I'm going to buy some land and real estate on Second Life. I believe that's the best way to earn money, or EVE Online. Something like that.
Presumably you'll be using the new British Bitcoin that our Chancellor's going to be setting up. Have you not heard about this? Yeah.
No.
It's setting up an official British government Bitcoin type.
Are we going to tie our currency to it like the gold standards?
Well, I can think of no securer way to ensure economic prosperity.
And if there's one thing that central government do, well, it's cybersecurity.
Fortunately, someone else has sort of already done the what do we call it? The blockchain technology.
Blockchain. Have they done it, or is it like that woman who conned everyone by saying she had a blockchain and actually didn't?
From all of the other cryptocurrencies, but
yeah, that's interesting.
I don't know what the end game of this is, but
no, because you can't. I mean, you can't really use cryptocurrency for that much at the moment, really.
It's not backed up by the Bank of England.
But what's the point?
I've not really looked into it that thoroughly, but yeah, that's my first thing.
I mean, just question. In general.
Yeah, no. I mean, I would imagine it's just a splashy headline to get into the paper and look like you're innovative and Chancellor 2.0, but. Quick way to potentially raise some cash. I'm going to assume we'll just start paying all of the civil servants and nurses in cryptocurrency.
Well, I'll be getting paid in cryptocurrency.
So when it inevitably takes a nosedive, that'll be interesting.
Well, and also, I mean, to be fair, that's handy for me because I do all my shopping on the dark web, as you well know. So I prefer the barter system of the dark web. If I want some bread, you can have some guns or whatever, that kind of thing. So, alongside literally sucking out the life of people, EBC can supposedly turn people to stone with a single gaze, like the Medusa. So avoid looking into its eyes at all costs. The only way to truly avoid the torment of this fowl is to find the egg before it hatches and burn it immediately. Bang! The hen or rooster who laid the egg must also be killed to ensure it can no longer birth any more monstrosities. If EBC has already hatched, however, and is living underneath the house, far more drastic measures are in order, Neil. What kind of measures would you employ if you found out that there was a chicken, reptile, Medusa?
It's clearly demonic. With
soul
strands
sucker
of filthy pagans involved. I think nothing short of a full-scale exorcism.
Yeah, a witch, and maybe
I mean, probably, there's probably some local witches, so we probably need to have a prayer session, witch hunt, and an exorcism combined.
And you've got to wonder where the people are getting their information about.
Just start up another full-scale inquisition, perhaps. That might be. I always thought, El Torquemada, whatever his name was quite a natty dresser. Wouldn't mind one of those hats.
Well, I think apart from
the red's quite a good.
Apart from the books which you personally approve, probably burn all the rest of them in case they've got.
That's the good thing is with the Inquisition is just as long as you do enough praying, you get directed the right way, and worst case scenario, you burn an innocent, but then they go to heaven.
Yeah, win-win, isn't it?
It's like the old ducking stools for testing out whether someone's a witch. If they drown, they're innocent and they go to heaven.
Either way.
If they fight, burn them. Wow, that's justice at work. Can't see any possible means for corruption in this. So just
no, absolutely not.
Anyone who's slightly eccentric, or just like a woman who hasn't sort of like completely gone down and done what's expected of medieval society, harassing them for no reason. Almost coherent thought.
Yeah. So, the first and least reliable way to expel the beast requires the help of an experienced sorcerer.
I like
this. Yeah, the sorcerer must perform a ritual that involves placing 2 mechi rods in the shape of a cross, so they point to the 4 corners of the house, while simultaneously spreading an odorous poison across the floor. This will prompt the subterranean serpent to let out a deafening whistle.
It'd be good if it was like a really loud swanning whistle, wouldn't it?
Yeah. According to most accounts, however, the only truly foolproof way to get rid of a mature BC is to burn the house down entirely.
Burn all the woodlands as well. Bomb it. Nuclear weaponry.
So, appearance. EBC begins its life as a small round egg that's greyish-white in colour and is said to resemble a marble. Right, this is going to be tough. There's a lot of L's and I's in this, and O's. This is known as a Iloliloli egg. That's L-L-O-I-L-L-O-I. Ilolioli leg. Or Iloli leg egg.
I think two L's might be pronounced as a Y as well to complicate things.
Yeah, Ioli.
Certainly in French, I believe, in Spanish.
Yoli. Would that be it? Yoli? Yeah, we got it. So, what makes this egg particularly distinct is that it doesn't have a yolk. Where does the fucking
that would be really helpful in like California because you want your egg white omelette. Now you
that's
if you could get the eggs from a Basilico, super larger.
Yeah, get some yoli eggs.
Please. I forgot what it's called. LB. You can have an LB egg, please. All white omelette. They've just got more protein, Chris. It's got healthier protein. It's because they get all of it from saliva from Chilean people. Very healthy. Good amino acids.
Yeah, and they've got very rich red blood cells because of the lack of oxygen up there. Because they're living in higher altitudes.
Contained in this. Let's go with
that. After it has been successfully incubated, the yoli egg hatches to reveal a bright red earthworm, which wriggles away from its den. It takes about a year for this creepy crawly to mature into the horrifying hybrid that is LBC.
Isn't this how Boris Johnson was conceived? Or submit with your own right-wing celebrity. Have fun.
Once it's reached maturity, EBC resembles a snake with the head of a vibrant red crest of a rooster. It's petite, undulating body sprouts 2 tiny wings which cannot fly, and 2 short legs which can't
I'll
really
tell you
walk.
what, we were let off when he couldn't fly with those. Imagine one of those fucking things flying around the house. That wouldn't be good, would it? Sure,
I'd probably keep them as pets at that point, wouldn't you? It can only crawl to get around, which gives it something of a pitiful appearance. I can't get around, and I only want a little bit of saliva to survive. In short, whoever had a hand in creating EBC was either very drunk or had a very cruel sense of humour. It's God, isn't it?
That's how he goes. That's how he rolls, the big man.
That can be thrown at him for a lot of stuff.
Well,
if you choose to believe him.
Swings and roundabouts. We also have to be thankful for all the good.
Yep.
And what better, my poor fool, than to give you an appreciation of it than all of the awful rubbish as well. It's all about balance. It's what we mortals so fail to appreciate.
Yeah, it's true. So, origin story.
I thought we'd already had that.
So the myth of...
Or is this like the vampire, like from Dracula 2000, and we found out it was Judas? 2000 or 3000, I can't remember. Yeah, that was Gerard Butler, and it turns out it was Judas, and when he cursed himself and became the original vampire.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
I think that's actually kind of a cool twist, but the film's fucking terrible. It's like Limp Bizkit the Vampire. Kind of shitty fucking music. That awful late 90s metal that they were coming out with the fucking baseball caps and some whack rapping in.
Yeah, metal with rap.
Well, like the 80s stuff, it's fine.
Who were the other ones?
Well, you had like Anthrax doing it in the 80s, but they genuinely like appreciate the early hip hop and stuff. But no, yeah, it was like Limp Bizkit and fucking Papa Roach probably. They were famous.
No. Who's the big one?
I thought Limp Bizkit was the big one.
Limp Bizkit was big, but not really in the UK. There was a bigger metal rap one. Oh, I'll remember it. Who were they?
Oh,
the guy who's gone all mad and now believes in UFOs. Believes in all the UFOs.
Sort of Blink-182 or something, but they were more of a pop.
Yeah, Blink-182 was the one I'm thinking of.
Did they do stuff? I didn't listen to any of it. Okay.
Yeah,
I thought they were more of a sort of pop punk like Green Day kind of thing.
No, they were kind of
no, they were like
rap. Well, yeah, that's kind of horrible.
Yeah, because you talk about that one, it just reminds me that there was a guy and there was another one of these awful bands, but this is more of a mopey gothy one that they were called Stains, and he became like a real country singer now apparently. Yeah, he's just had a bit of a hit in the country 100 or whatever they call it, the American sort of music. Basically talking about.
And I'm going back to Tennessee.
He's basically slagging off the Lids. Am I the only one who loves this country? Sees what's going on. All that kind of shit.
I'm going back to my farm where all the snowflakes will melt away.
That blue. There's nothing stopping you. Just shut up.
Where I'm no longer ashamed to love
George gerrymander district. I'm straightforward rights and empty my rights. Am I the only one who's fundamentally American? Yeah, all right, whatever. And that's why we're not country singers. Politics and
singer. Not sure what country. So, origins, the myth of...
They seem quite nice. A little hobbit people.
Like the Concorde's got that stitched up. So the myths of EBC date back to roughly the 16th century, Neil. That's a long one. That's a very old myth, isn't it? And is likely to have been heavily influenced by the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors to the Chiloé archipelago. These conquistadors began their conquest of the islands in 1567, during which time their superstitious belief began to fuse with the myths of the indigenous Chono and Huiliche people. Yeah, because the old flying serpent and all that business, Quetzalcoatl and that kind of thing, that's That's very much kind of Inca, Aztec.
Yeah, that's
thing,
kind of more Peruvian, I think.
Serpent.
But yeah, I mean, not that they were the same strict boundaries and stuff. I'm not quite sure. The Aztec Empire.
Well, they all of them date back. Well, the earliest sort of known higher civilization, rather than just sort of tribal, was the Olmecs, which they all kind of sprouted out. So they would have similar, like the Abrahamic religions, all got similarities. So they'd have similar kind of gods and stuff, you'd think, and love of the stars. So it was in this way that much of the Chlote mythology was formed. Since the Chiloé archipelago was isolated from mainland of Chile, it was unaffected when the Mapuche people began occupying or destroying Spanish settlements in 1598, and thus the local people were able to preserve their unique culture. Thus, EBC is believed to be a combination of three mythical beasts. The basilisk? No. The basilisk, and the cockatrice, brought over...
I know that one because I fought one in Witcher 3.
Brought over from Europe by the Spanish conquistadors, and the Colo Colo, a villainous creature from Mapuche mythology. Arguably, the most famous of this terrible trilogy is a basilisk, which resembles a colossal snake that can cause death with a single glance.
Stone, couldn't it, like the Medusa?
In fact,
basilisk. Yeah.
EBC literally translate to mean the Chlote basilisk, and serves as a testament to just how well known this cantankerous cobra has become. The cockatrice also bears a variety of similarities to the basilisk. And is often depicted as a
Basilisk.
Basilisk. I wanted to do Owlman, and you've made me do this, and you know all the words.
And it's I've got to try and pronounce some Cornish words next time. That'll be fun.
It's often depicted as a two-legged dragon or serpentine creature with a rooster's head and a small vestigial wings. In fact, by the 14th century, the cockatrice had become virtually synonymous with the
basilisk. Yeah,
basilisk. In spite of the fact that the latter was conventionally wingless. Much like EBC, it was rumoured to have been born from an egg laid by a cockerel, although this egg had to be incubated by either a toad or a snake. That's nice, isn't it?
What kind of madmen are actually born into? I've heard this before with the basilisk. It's like the hen lays it, but the rooster actually brings it to term or something. So hen lays an egg, and so I think to get a basilisk, you have to have like the hen lays the egg, I guess, and then a rooster actually, incubates it.
Well, it's saying here that the egg's laid by a cockerel, so that's a boy. So the boy lays the egg.
Yeah, he ain't got egg-laying parts, so I don't know how that's working.
No, so I don't know whether they're just getting a bit mixed up here, whoever's written this. They don't know that a cockerel's a male. And then it's incubated, so sat on by a toad or a snake. Hence, the DNA seeps out of their stomach in through the egg membrane. So the Colo Colo, Culo, by contrast, derives from the mythology of the Mapuche people.
Quite a lot of early kind of like genetic crossbreeding of, plants and things like that. So you have to wonder, is this some sort of, some early indigenous kind of like, they were playing around with animals as well. A lot of things we take for granted now come from South America, like tomatoes and potatoes and all sorts of
potatoes, onions.
They were managed to sort of like, I think they've gone back and found the sort of original sort of things they had to work with. They were sort of incredible kind of like gardeners and able to sort of like, crossbreed all of these things to produce things that you can actually eat.
And I forget
what it was, but there's like a staple grain that's this book 1491. It talks about what happens when Columbus came over. It's sort of. Yeah, they found. Yeah, so I think it might be just like the maize crop, but I can't remember what it's called. There's if you go and find where the original wild plant where this would have come from, it's like practically inedible, and it's like really moved on genetically from where from where we had the current crop.
Yeah, they're very
exactly. Yeah, and
innovative
the
farmers.
cultivation stuff would have been really kind of like
Well, they've got that's people kind of they think of ayahuasca, which is the hallucinogen drink which people go and take because it can really help people with depression and stuff like that. But they kind of think that they're kind of they think of it as a spiritual thing, and it is weird because it's from it's made from two plants that are both pretty rare in the rainforest, and like, who thought to stick these together and have a drink? Do you know what I mean? It's kind of, like, to try every plant with every plant in the Amazon, a little bit of time. So the Colo Colo, by contrast, derives from the mythology of the Mapuche people who live predominantly in south-central Chile and southwestern Argentina. Its appearance varies depending on the region, but it often depicts either a feathered rat or a reptile with a rat's head. The rabid rodent was believed to hatch from an egg laid by a snake and incubated by a rooster. Once it had hatched, the Colo Colo would hide underneath the house and secretly feast on the saliva of the residents. Eventually, the local saliva... Oh, evidently... No, I'm not reading that. Unlike EBC, however, the Colo Colo could be exorcised from a home by a special Mapuche religious leader known as a Machi. It's commonly believed that legends such as Colo Colo and EBC evolved out of the fact the locals had no explanation for the occurrence of various illnesses.
Yeah, it does
which
make a lot of sense.
So they're often blamed on
supernatural forces. If you read back some of I remember did a history of medicine for GCSEs, I think it was. There was a really hilarious thing where they had sort of comparing Eastern and Western medicine. So, it's sort of the Western medicine was like, oh, someone's got a headache. And it's like, oh, they're plagued by demons. Let's trepan the skull and open up, get the demons out. Whereas, the Eastern was like, which obviously is just sensible medicine. And, they've studied their Galen. They actually know the four humours properly. Which Eastern medicine, it's like, probably drink some water, have a salad and, avoid rich foods. Rest for a few days and then you'll be fine. Yeah. Demons are all pent up.
Heavily trepanned.
You're going to go furious in there, aren't they?
I mean, I've been feeling a lot better since I got my 12th trepanning.
Do you know people still do trepanning to this day?
Yes, I do know that, They do it themselves.
Yeah, I
know. Yeah. But, I mean, I do it myself, so I do know
that's a good point. Probably should listen next time, shouldn't
I? But I mean, Eastern medicine's got loads to teach us. And to be fair, I would say that tribal medicine has a lot to teach us from people who are indigenous to these areas. I mean, we only have... I mean, there's lots of stuff out there.
It's like from malaria. I mean, quinine was known about. I mean, I think that's a tree bark. That might be from the Americas, actually, quinine, which is used to treat malaria.
Well, first antibiotics sort of came from nomads who lived in, I believe, the Sahara. And basically, if they got a cut that was infected or something, they would take mold off of the leather on the horse's saddle and rub it on there, and it was penicillin. So, there's these things kicking about, but I don't know how much GlaxoSmithKline actually, would be listening to tribal elders.
In fairness, I think it's more to do with the how much money spent on R&D of new things rather than just rehashing stuff you've already got patents on. But no, I think in fairness, there's quite a lot of field investigation has been.
There is an argument, though, that there is more money in treatment than cure.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole. I suspect to an extent there's probably some truth in that, but I think it's more about what you can patent and how much money you can make. So if you've got an existing patent and that's being used for treatment, then obviously it's a lot easier to make money than trying to create something brand new that's effective and safe, and then that takes.
But rather than, I know why, because this would go entirely against the very moral fabric of the people who are in charge of government. But rather than setting up a British cryptocurrency, should we not fund researchers and set up a British medical organisation that does research and goes out and does that stuff and then tries to produce medicines that benefit humanity?
Things like MRC, it's just, how well you're funding them or not, that's a different question. But yeah. Well, it's not a magic money trick, Chris. Except when they're here.
Until it is, yeah. So,
look, let's just face the facts. Neither you nor I went to Eton, so we're not qualified to talk about any of this stuff. So.
That's true. I didn't even go to university. Imagine that.
Didn't realise that. Disgraceful. Ring off immediately.
That's the only reason you hang around with me. Whenever we're off air, you're going, "You boy," hitting me with your cane. In particular, they served as a satisfactory explanation for consumptive diseases like cancer, leukemia, and chronic lung conditions, which religious healers throughout Chile were powerless to defend against during that time. Another more bizarre explanation for the origins of these mythical beasts is related to their birth, as they were frequently described as the product of a male rooster or an elderly hen. These monsters may have been a physical representation of the psychological anxiety that local people had about abnormal sexual activity, such as intercourse between men or pregnancy and old age. Maybe. I doubt it. In short, EBC may be the most homophobic, blah, blah, blah.
I suppose maybe if you get a bit older, you start getting a bit more, you start to lose your energy and stuff. So it's better to blame it. It's like, I'm having a little bit of trouble downstairs. The wife is, it's probably LB. Been in here, dosing on my saliva.
So to look at him,
it's a long time between the 16th century and Viagra, Chris.
Well, the thing is with I don't know this. I'm ignorant on the subject of what the belief systems of the whoever it was, the Maui? Or no, not Maui. That's a different thing. The Mapuche. I'm ignorant to their belief systems. I don't know that most. I honestly don't know. I wasn't aware of there being a lot of anti-homosexual sentiment. But I would say that would be something that probably came with the conquistadors.
Oh no, I was thinking more of erectile dysfunction, but
as usual,
it's been on my mind about Chris for some reason.
It's always top of mind. No, it's saying that it could be psychological anxiety about abnormal sexual activity, but I'm not sure that was something that seems to have come in with the Abrahamic religion.
That would have been part of the the whole sort of Christian stuff came across. But
I know. Who's to say? I don't know enough about what their beliefs, the ancient people's beliefs were, but I would say in general it doesn't tend to be.
Don't know how much of that kind of
as backwards as kind of.
Yeah, no. Well, also I don't know how much we sort of understand about sort of the broader beliefs and things like that, the moral systems, because there wasn't a written record, was there?
No, they were just killed up. So Neil, this week I am going to be selecting my numbers by I've tied little flags onto several hundred flies that I have currently buzzing around my room, and I have in front of me 4 Venus flytraps. So again, by summoning the wisdom that is inherent throughout the universe and within the life and death cycle of nature, I'm going to be whichever fly gets caught by each fly trap. I've got them under yogurt pots at the moment. I remove the lid, see which fly goes in.
But it sounds like a thorough. Who better but the animal kingdom to decide how to score the animal kingdom?
There's a lot of flies. It won't take very long. Maybe too many. So, spookiness, Neil, you go first.
So, I think the idea of some snake rooster abomination pulling out of your basement and having a go at your salivary glands, that is pretty awful. And the idea, you're kind of asleep though. I appreciate his politeness and just singing you a lovely lullaby to keep you dropped off so he doesn't have to turn into stone. Do you reckon that's what it is?
Yeah, crossing you in style someday.
That's where swinger music comes from. It's all old.
Apparently, Tony Bennett is actually one of these.
Well, he's just had to retire, hasn't he? So I reckon, they've come a calling. He sold his soul to LB, and he's like, "But when you're 95, I will come and I'll drain that saliva.
We're coming for the saliva, Tony.
I'll gift you 70 years of smooth."
Yeah, reasonable success.
Well, he was pretty big, wasn't he? He was second behind.
I like Tony Bennett. He's a good crooner.
Sinatra. I always kind of thought he seemed like a nicer guy. Not to be too judgmental. Anyway, okay, it's quite off-putting. It's a funny one, this, because there's a tension between something that's inherently ridiculous and something that is a bit weird and disgusting. There's something quite icky. I mean, I'm not particularly frightened. I'm not particularly frightened of a snake rooster type abomination on the face of it. But, I'm asleep, I'm vulnerable, and then it's just going to make sure I stay asleep. Now, all it's wanting to do is it's pretty off-putting, actually. Yeah, I'm going to give it, it doesn't haunt me that much, but there is something, something preying on you while you're asleep and you can't do anything about it, even that.
You're going to struggle to get to sleep tonight, aren't you?
Apparently, well, maybe. It depends on whether I've got one of these things in the basement. It wouldn't surprise me. I'll give it a 7.
Oh. So, it's not scary looking, is it? And it sounds like it's pretty pathetic. But then my worry would be that because of that, then I'd want to mother it. So I'd probably just let it in and drink my saliva and breathe my life spirit.
It's probably filled with misplaced rage as well.
Yeah, probably. Lash out at me, even though I'm doing my best as a father. So there's loads of stuff that can get you when you're sleeping, though, isn't there? I mean, we're meant to eat about 17 spiders a week when we're asleep or something like that. Not that much. I'm making that up. Sleeping is your most vulnerable. Well, not quite your most vulnerable, but definitely up there. I don't know. I just think that the whole it dehydrates you to death thing, kind of, I'm a bit like, well, I do, I'm normally quite good at keeping hydrated. So for that, I'm going to have a look here.
Typical pampered Westerner.
The lid.
Collar or not.
Oh, and it's a fly with the number 5 has gone on there, so I'm giving it a 5. So, believability. I mean, I don't believe in the creature, but I believe that it's a good explanation for people who didn't have an explanation for degenerative diseases. It seems to have been like a nice mishmash or bastardization of several different legends. Always like that kind of cross-pollination of things. But again, it does come back to me that its finishing move seems pretty easy to sidestep. So I'm going to give it a 3, which is quite low for believability. Neil?
I've got it's finishing move, because once it's hatched, your house is fucked. I mean,
unless you burn it. Yeah, but it's dehydrating you to death over weeks.
Oh yeah, you just move out, but then your property price is going to plummet.
Well, you just drink some water.
I'm going to write to my MP about this. It's an outrage.
Bottle of Lucasade.
Yeah, no. I mean, again, unless it's a spiritual. So believability. No, this is kind of like, I think it's interesting, and I kind of quite like, again, it's the folkloric aspect of it. But obviously, it sounds to me like it's already very much moved into the realms of mythology. I'm not sort of seeing that people are claiming this is something that's still happening. It feels like probably something that hasn't been believed in for possibly hundreds of years. It feels like, I mean, who knows? I don't know. But from what we'd read and from what we'd seen, I didn't see anyone claiming that these things are still knocking about.
It's because they're all dead.
Yeah, burnt them all, exercised them.
Dehydrate. No, I mean the people.
Oh, right, yeah. No... low on the believability scale for me. Yeah, I'm just going to have to give this. I'll give it a 2.
2, undermining me. So to you again, Neil, for Reach.
So on the other hand, though, Reach. I mean, it's because it's sort of taken on that kind of mythological status. It's obviously been around for a very, very long time, and it's something that's going to be sort of part of that culture. So that's something that will sort of keep it knocking around, unlike some of their kind of urban myths where you think they're just going to disappear, you know. So I think it's going to. I think, you know, you can hear about these things all over the world now. It's not necessarily something that's popular or known very well in other parts of the world. Yet again, it's something I haven't heard of. But you know, it's obviously the people writing articles about it all over the place. It's something that's been around for quite a long time again. It's a, you know, piece of mythology. I think it'll persist. So I'm going to give it a 7 for Reach.
7, nice. So yeah, I broadly agree. We haven't heard of it particularly, but it seems that Latin cultures would know more about it than us. So, and that's, you know, a big chunk of the world. It's been around for ages. It depends if you kind of wrap in the 3 myths as well, which it's kind of based on, which you could argue that it's an evolution of those. So yeah, I think it's got decent reach. It doesn't seem to have had any films made of it, which I think is a mistake, and I think that's something we'll look at. Something fun like Gremlins, but with these things. That'd be good, wouldn't it? So, yeah, I broadly agree with you. I'm going to give it 7.5.
You've moved on to the 0.5s, okay. I say.
Yeah, well, I thought I'd power play you.
Good for you. So that pans out.
It's going pretty well at the moment. I'm feeling strong. And narrative / premise. Yeah, I mean, it does feel like a proper medieval one here, like a male rooster, and then a frog sits on it, and then it comes out.
It looks at your baby on the third noontide of Michaelmas.
Yeah. It feels like a proper medieval one.
Vapors.
Yeah.
A child will
so
die.
It's they've thrown in the Medusa thing of it, and I don't know where that comes from, the kind of snake turning people to stone thing, but that seems to, snakes and turning people to stone seem to go hand in hand. Maybe it's because I don't blink very often. Who knows?
It might just come from Greek mythology above the Medusa and just people claiming that there's a, you know, friend of a friend said somebody got turned to stone.
Yeah.
I'm to Frank, sure, I didn't rob him and murder him. No, he turned to stone.
He saw a snake and went turned to stone. And then I pushed it over and it's now just pebbles. So yeah, I mean, what I will say, it's an original premise. Like it's modus operandi. It is certainly not one that I've heard of or would possibly even think up in my fevered imagination. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a 7.
Oh, very high.
Neil.
So I might be going the other way on this because I like the blend. I like the creature design. That's good, you know. Rick Baker could do a good job with this. Stan Winston or someone. Yeah, if we could make an 80s movie out of this, that'd be pretty good. But the problem is these days it'll be CGI, Chris. That'd ruin it for me. Practical effects.
God, can you imagine Tremors with CGI? Ugh, it'd be awful.
I assume haven't they done about
filled with
10 sequels of that? I'm sure there's a CGI one that's that.
Yeah, no, exactly.
But
interestingly, there was one which I nearly said to do today is the Mongolian Deathworm, which I think that Tremors might be based on. I decided to.
I'm all up for Tremors conversation. So kill powder dry on that one. Narrative, wasn't it? Yeah. So
narrative premise.
There's not loads here for me, though, to be honest with you, because obviously there's the whole mythological aspect, which is interesting. So yeah, I think I'm gonna give it higher than I was initially going to do. I was going to be quite low here, but I think I like the whole kind of like it's got a bit of the kind of like European medieval thing coming in from through the conquistadors, and then feeding a little bit into the into the native kind of like mythology, presumably things like you said, like Quetzalcoatl, or however you pronounce that, those sort of winged sort of snake demon. I wonder if it's coming a little bit from that. So they've taken that kind of hybrid thing and then, worked in the serpent stuff, which is that's quite nice. But then what's he up to? Waits until you're asleep, keeps you asleep, and then has a suck on your saliva.
It's the originality which gave it that. The fact that it not only sings like lullabies, but also it's very niche survival mechanism.
I'm coming round to this, to be honest with you, because thinking there isn't really much of a narrative possibility there. But I'm kind of like, you could do a taut little like one-room drama with maybe a mixture of kind of like The Exorcist and I don't know, some 80s creature feature. Yeah, I think.
People just getting iller and
am I going mad, or is an LB sitting in the basement? Yeah.
Yeah. And between scenes, the lights go down and you hear
there's this friendly Chilotty priest who lives next door, and he keeps telling me that he's got at first I think he's like got something weird in mind, but then I find out actually he's just trying to protect me from LB. And then actually I'm talking myself around to this now. This is quite good. I think
You've basically written
I've got my treatment. I'm getting close to my treatment. We put it on Broadway, we get a Tony as well, get a step towards the EGOT.
Lovely. Well, as we know, that's exactly I'm moving towards my EGOT, as you know.
Oh, God. Actually, no, you've turned me around on this now. I was thinking there wasn't really much of a narrative possibility, but I think, you can have I'm going to give it a 7.75.
That has to be the last one. Okay, so what's that overall? Carry the one. So it's got 36.25 nil, so nearly half marks. So it's done all right for itself. And I'm glad we had a little look at that. That's interesting because it's probably the oldest one we've seen.
Yes, by a fairly long chalk, I would think.
Yeah, so and I didn't know that to start with. I didn't know that it went back so far. So it's interesting to see that and how the two different cultures sort of fused to make this frankly bizarre creature. So that was EBC for you. And remember tonight, when you're going to sleep and you hear a lullaby, you'll be too tired to have nightmares.
So you don't wake up with a saliva-blessed body. Dry husk of a human being.
Remember, if you're dehydrated because a snake rooster is stealing your saliva, try to get hydrated again. And that's the tip which I'm going to leave you on for this episode of A Bay Legend. I've been Chris. Goodbye.